This meeting is being recorded.
All right, welcome out to another episode of the Gridiron 64 podcast, the GI 64 podcast, where it's Wednesday. We didn't come on Monday like we usually do. We came on Wednesday, and we're here. This is episode number 52. And this evening, um, we're going to break down or recap actually, the 2A Division 1 Region 4, District 15, which is the Refugio Bobcats, China Comanches, Three River Bulldogs, Ganado Indians, the Kenedy Lions, Skidmore Bobcats, and the Bloomington Bobcats. And on the screen, I have my partner, the Mouth of the South, right? TJ
Mouth.
Griddle Riddell. TJ, I'm just coming up with names for you, man. I'm just Griddle, Mouth of the South. I mean, what's going on here?
Wow. Am I Jimmy Hart or something? What is going on?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just something that pops into my head. Crazy stuff popping into my head today. But anyway, it's the guy that everybody recognizes his voice, man. He's on constantly. He loves football. Now
Yeah.
I do sports. I do football and I love football, but I do basketball, baseball, but you strictly just do football, man, right? He
Yeah.
loves football. And so how you doing this evening, man? Thank you for joining me though.
Thank you for having me on, and I'm doing pretty good. A little nasally, but it's allergy season, folks. So take extra precautions and take your allergy medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tony was unable. He sent me a text. He was unable to make it today. So he had to go work late. So he's unable to make. Hopefully, he'll be back with us next time we come on. But we're gonna break
Yeah.
down this district. I got to tell you, this was a really good district. We paid a lot of attention to it. Of course, the two teams that we talked about a lot were the Shiner Comanches and the Refugio Bobcats. But Refugio in this area, you and I are located, just not even maybe 20-minute, 30-minute drive up north, right?
Yeah.
Pay a lot of attention to Refugio. We don't talk a lot about them during the regular season because they usually beat people up 50-0 or something. But this year it was a little
Yeah.
different. It was Shiner in the district. There was a lot more to talk about, right? It wasn't going to be an easy road to just getting that district title. And then Three Rivers was also another team that was pretty strong. I lost both of them, but not a pushover. So there are some teams here that can be very competitive. But we'll start off talking this evening about the Refugio Bobcats. Their overall record 14-2, undefeated in district play, 6-0. The games that they had with Shiner, both in district and in the playoffs, was one heck of a game. The playoff game
Yeah.
down to one play of Refugio. But TJ, I got to tell you, Refugio, this is a great. They started off. They got bit. They got beat by Hitchcock, right? And they got beat pretty bad. And everybody thought, oh, here we go again. How good is Refugio going to be? Since that game, this team just wiped everybody. I mean, all the way to the state title. I mean, they blew doors. They beat some good teams, Shiner, Edna. So this is a very good team, a young team. A lot of Coach Henry's going to have a lot of these players coming back next
Yeah.
year. So my question to you before you break it down is, after you break it down, you can answer the question: can the Refugio Bobcats go back up to Jerry World this upcoming year in 2023, and this time win the title?
Well, first of all, they gotta stop having parades and celebrations before the game even starts. But it's very possible with the roster talent that they have, um, and especially against a worthy opponent like Shiner in your district, and you know you're going to meet them again before you meet up with Timpson. So yeah, I think it's possible. Is it a guarantee? I'm not quite sure, but I do believe they'll have Hitchcock at home in week one, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be an interesting matchup in week one. Probably a revenge game for Coach Jason Herring and the Refugio Bobcats. Uh, but yeah, London was a tough adversary for Refugio, even though the score says 40-22. They still gave them a hell of a fight. But I other than Hitchcock, Edna, Shiner two times, and Timpson before the state championship game, they were just wiping people off the map. I mean, look at what they did to Bishop, 49-0. Bloomington, 55-0. London, 39-6. Three Rivers, that tough team that we were talking about, 58-7. Skidmore, 60-0. So they already had 3 shutouts in the regular season. And they didn't have any more after that, but man, they were just pounding and pounding teams left and right. But once they got to that state championship game, there was some controversy about them not getting enough practice and heading up to Jerry's World. Well, they were complaining that they only had 2 days of practice, and I'm probably going to get blasted for saying what I'm about to say. They were complaining about 2 days of practice, which I've said this before too, so I'm actually surprised I wasn't blasted beforehand. That Refugio had 2 days of practice and Holly had 3 days of practice. You know, and I asked the question, why would y'all even have a parade or a celebration before the state championship game? You got to stay focused, and that's not on the players, that's on everybody, so it's not over till it's over, so I mean they have a really good talented team coming back. Chai Whitmore, they got Keelan Brown, who's going to be coming back. He's a sophomore. He was a quarterback and a kicker. Ernest Campbell's coming back. He's a big playmaker for Refugio. And then you got Jaden Lewis, who was a receiver of strong safety. Caleb Brown. I mean, they're going to have a big senior class. And then you got Carson Herring coming back for his junior season. Isaiah Avery's coming back. Caleb Brown's coming back. I mean, they are losing Caleb Hesseltine. They're losing quite a bit, but they're still restacking the odds, So it's very possible that Refugio comes back and actually gets to state and wins it, So we'll see what happens with Refugio. There's no stats on him, of course. So yeah.
Yeah, but here's my question, because I don't really know. We'll talk about Shiner here in a minute, but Refugio, we had the offensive coordinator, I believe his name was Cameron Cox, Coach Cox, on not this year, but the year prior, and he said, and I remember that he said that the well isn't running dry in Refugio, and it's not, because what Harry's got coming back next year is the speed. The speed is there. And you saw this year how that speed helped them get, because it was the speed, I think, among other things, but the speed helped them get there. It caused a lot of problems for Shiner. It caused problems for Timpson, because you can do so much. They didn't just have one, they have multiple guys. So you saw a big difference, and you saw Herring this year just kind of change some things up from what we had seen against Shiner. So whatever he did, the changes he made were really good. But I think this team is going to be the district champs again this year, because I really don't know what Shiner. I know Brooks is leaving, so obviously that's a
Dalton Brooks is leaving for Texas A&M, so that is going to be a huge loss for Shiner.
But I think Refugio, and I'm not going to make my prediction yet, but I definitely think that they're in the running to be the district champs again. Listen, Timpson's got that quarterback coming back. Edna's got that quarterback coming back. So it's not a for sure thing that this team is going to wipe these guys out again. I mean, it's going to be another competitive 2023 year for, I think, Refugio, but they definitely got to be the favorite with what they've got coming back, going into the state title last year, getting to Dallas, and then coming back with the amount of talent and players that they got coming back. You would think that they would be the favorite, right? But again, to get back there, you're going to have to get past Timpson. And that Timpson game was pretty darn good last year. It came down to play. And so, so we'll see what happens. But also Shiner, it won't be a pushover. And they won't have Brooks, but they still got talent out there. So it's not a for sure thing. But I would think that yes, Herring and the Refugio Bobcats got to be the favorites with what they've got coming back with Campbell.
Oh, for sure.
Got that speed. That is just so dangerous. And we'll find out how good this team really going to be when they meet Hitchcock in week 1. But definitely a great 2022 season for Jason Herron and his Refugio Bobcats. I mean, what can you say about Refugio? Those guys are never really playing for district titles. They're always playing for state championships, right? And when they played Holly, and I've had this conversation, TJ, with
Yep.
a lot of people that watch high school football, and I can't say that if it wasn't for the fumbles, Refugio would have won because Holly it was tough. They had a running back out there.
They were very physical. I will give Holly that. They were very physical, and they really matched the speed of what Refugio had.
But I don't know.
And it was very shocking.
They were
It really was.
They were physical, but that running back they had, he was getting tired. And
Yeah.
and Refugio was moving the ball on Holly. So if they don't fumble, because fumbles, man, God, they had a bunch of turnovers. If they don't turn that ball over, I'm not going to say they would have won the game. Holly played a
It would
healthy,
have been, it would have been a different
boy,
story.
I'll
for
tell you
sure.
what, they would have put themselves in a position to win that game. Those turnovers killed Refugio, and and every time they had something good going, they had a turnover. And that you just
Yeah.
state title game against a team like Holly, that many turnovers, you're just not going to win the game, right? But all that said, still a great 2022 season for Refugio. We'll see what happens in 2023, man. It's going to be another dogfight in this district. We'll go now to the second team in the district. The Shiner Comanches, they were 11-3, 5-1 in district play. The one loss obviously in district was to Refugio. Your thoughts on Shiner? I mean, they're losing Brooks. I mean, that doesn't mean he's a whole team, but that's a key loss for Shiner.
I mean, losing Brooks is probably the biggest ticker here for Shiner, but I don't think that Shiner is going to go away that easily. I think Shiner is actually going to be more physical next year, and look at their resume. I mean, they beat Vanderbilt Industrial 47-0. They beat Poth, a state contending team in the 3A, 22-21. They beat East Bernard, who is regarded as a playoff caliber team, 49-7. Then they beat Ganado, the 4th seed this year, 50-12. They beat Three Rivers 67-7, but they just couldn't get over the hump over Refugio, and I think that had a lot to do with experience because they had a lot of young guys this season, but they are going to come back and they're going to be even more hungry next season, I think. Brooks was a hell of a talent for Shiner in the Comanches, but I think that Shiner's going to be a good football team next year. I really do think so. And Refugio might want to watch out for Shiner. Do not count out Shiner. So that's all I got for Shiner. Not real stats, just one game basically, but I'm not going to do that.
No, and here's the deal with Shiner, right? And you're right. You're absolutely right. It's not Brooks is a big part of what they do, but they've got talent. And I don't think, I don't think it's going to be an easy walk for them. I mean, remember in the playoffs last year, it came down to one play. It was a 4th down actually, and they need to get that. If Refugio doesn't get that first down, game's over. I think so. They completed the play, but not only did they get the first down, they scored the touchdown. So these two teams were battling it out in that playoff game. So you're right. It's a loss, but I think they've got more talent. It's not a one-man show down there in Shiner.
Yeah.
Still, this team is still going to be good. They're well coached over there. So definitely, these two teams might meet up again twice. They'll definitely meet up in the district round, right? And then they might meet the playoffs again. Who knows? But look, man, you got to get excited about 2A football, right? Because Edna,
oh my God,
we don't know what London will have, right? But Edna, Shiner and Refugio, these two teams might meet tips. I mean, man, listen, I get excited about the 2A, man. I've been this year. I really played focus. There are some great 2A programs in the state of Texas, and the Gridiron 64 definitely going to be talking about them in 2023. We'll go to the third team, the number 3 team in the district, and that was the Three Rivers Bulldogs. There were 9-3, 4-2 in district. This team actually, TJ, I'm going to tell you the truth, was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But they were nowhere near the talent. They didn't have the talent to compete with. I don't know what the score. You said the score was Refugio, but what was the Shiner Three Rivers?
67-7.
So they didn't compete. The third place team is really far from top.
It's crazy. Like when you look at this district, you just see this pedestal that Refugio and Shiner's on. Then you got Three Rivers and Ganado. Then you got Bloomington and Kenedy. You know, it's a weird district. It's a exciting district, but it's a weird district because they have tiers. You got level 1, level 2, and level 3. That's the talent tier. You know, that's the talent level of play. You know, and it is so crazy. You got your 4th and 5th round and state championship contenders. You got your 3rd and 2nd round contenders, and then you got your teams that could make it to the playoffs. You know, and it's a very interesting district. But I gotta say, they shut out Fall City. They beat Taft, which is a very big key note right there, that they beat Taft this year. They beat Ganado 24-22, and they made it to the 2nd round of the playoffs this season. I call that a success for Three Rivers, and they played a very tough Flatonia team, you know, so they just got to match the level where Shiner and Refugio is, and then maybe we could start talking about them being district contenders, you know. But I will say this, they are getting back a lot of good talent, which is really good for Three Rivers. It is going to be their senior year. You got Solis, number 10, that star quarterback for Three Rivers. He threw for 149 completions, 235 passing attempts, threw over 2,500 yards with 2,534, and he threw 33 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And his QBR was 130.6. And then at the running back position, you got Thomas, who had 143 carries, had well over 1,200 yards rushing with 1,256 rushing yards, averaged out 8.8 yards a carry, averaged 104 yards a game. 104. And had 11 touchdowns this season. He had 7 games that he went over 100 yards rushing. So watch out for Thomas. I mean, these two are the senior leaders as far as the rush game. And then you look at the pass game, they are losing Amaro, but they get back their top receiver, Lancaster, number 1. He's going to be a senior next year. So all these seniors coming up, these juniors that are going to be seniors next year, you know, they grew up together and they have a great chemistry together. And that's what you need for a team like Three Rivers to compete with Shiner and Refugio. And honestly, if I'm Three Rivers and I look at that scoreboard, it pisses me off, you know. So I would look at it and just remind myself, I'm better than that 50-point deficit. I'm better than that 60-point deficit, you know. And these cats are really good. Like Lancaster, 64 receptions, 1,278 receiving yards, 21 receiving touchdowns. So that's another kid I left out in my top 10 list that probably deserved it, you know. And you got Steele, you got the other Thomas, or you got Thomas, number 8. You just got guys. You got dogs for the Bulldogs, And they were very minimal when they fumbled the ball, but when they did fumble the ball, they lost all the fumbles. So, I mean, probably the biggest reason why they lost to Refugio and Shiner is, for one, they're intimidated by the name. The name of that team can intimidate you. I remember when I was playing for Normandy, you can see that picture back there of me playing corner for the Normandy Panthers back in 2013. We played against Chilton, who was ranked number 9, and Bremond, who was ranked 11th in state in 2A. So, yeah, those two names scared the hell out of us. So, especially around that time, because I remember Harrison Hull from Bremond, he would kick the crap out of us every snap, and I had a chance to meet up with him after the game, and he was a pretty cool dude afterwards, but I did not like him. He hit me so hard that my lungs were punctured, it felt like, but that's how hard he hit. But yeah, with Three Rivers, it's kind of like that. Like, you get the names of Refugio and Shiner in your district, you get that little butterfly in your stomach feeling, and that's why you end up losing 50 to 60 points a game against those teams, and you make silly mistakes, and that's the biggest thing. You make silly mistakes, and it goes with both play calling and players, and being on the field, and it happens. It happens to every team, except for the teams that make it to state every year, like Alito and Denton Geyer and all these other schools, So for Three Rivers, they just really gotta not be intimidated by Shiner and Refugio. I feel like that's part of their struggles against Refugio and Shiner. But Contreras, he's a sophomore, going to be a junior next year. Out of all the underclassmen, he is the top total tackler with 108 total tackles, but they are losing Amaro, like I said earlier. The sack leader, they have Diaz coming back with 4.5 sacks. And then the interception leader, well, would you look at that? The quarterback who played safety or defensive back this season had 5 interceptions. He threw for 5 interceptions, but he made up for it on the defensive side by catching those 5 interceptions. So that pretty much balanced him out. So, but they are getting a stingy defense back. So that's what I like about Three Rivers coming back. And they're not losing a whole lot, so expect them to be competitive this season.
Yeah, listen, I love Three Rivers. Their record is great, and even in district, right? Because the only 2 losses are to Shine and Refugio. But their overall record's great, and we're talking about the players, and the players are coming back and how good they are. I do think, DJ, and I do agree with you. I think there is a mentality. I think there is a mental part to this game. Refugio, they're just dominant. They've dominated us for so long. I think mentally it does play a fact that the game is already lost before it's played in your mind. Which is, if that is the case, and I do think it happens to a lot of teams. But I also think that Refugio is just they're just in a different level than Three Rivers right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think
that's why I brought in the tier level where Refugio and Shiner are. Three Rivers and Ganado are not on that level.
Yeah, they're
They're
not.
good,
Yeah,
but they're not there,
they're not.
And that's it's not discrediting the players, it's not discrediting them. It's just that's how good Refugio and Shiner are.
Yeah.
And same way with Timpson.
Yeah, it's the athletes. You're right. You're right. It most definitely is. It's just it's no disrespect or anything on Three Rivers. They're a great football team, but you're just playing this team Refugio, right, and Shiner, they're just in a different level. Doesn't mean that they're not playing, not trying. Because you look at the score and you're like, man, these guys didn't try. It's I don't think it's a case of that, because if you look at their record, Three Rivers is a damn good football team. They're just playing
Yeah.
a team that
They went with Ganado.
at this time last year we're talking about, right? Yeah, they were just on a different level. And outside of that, those two games, they were very competitive, winning games, right? They beat some good teams. You talked about how they beat Taft. Taft, a great team. They went to the third round of the playoffs with probably, well, you and I talked, probably the best quarterback in the Coastal Bend, right? So they do have some wins last year that are very impressive. But when it came to these two, and I didn't see the game, so they may have had some turnovers. I'm not sure, but I still think
Yeah.
the Refugio and Shiner, they're definitely on a different level than Three Rivers. But hey, we'll see what happens next year, man. I think Three Rivers definitely will be in the playoffs again next year. The fourth place team, the last team to win into the playoffs with the Ganado Indians,
Yeah.
with an overall
Let me
record of
just
9-4 and 3-3 in district.
let me just say this. Very similar to Three Rivers. Why do you think the final score was 24-22? Because, like I said, they're on the same level as each other. They're not on the same level as Shiner and Refugio. And again, not to disrespect those teams, but they have this mentality where Shiner and Refugio have kicked our asses for the longest time, so it is that mentality that teams have, programs, it is programmed in your head at times that, man, we just cannot beat this team. They're probably going to beat us again next year, so my thing with Three Rivers and Ganado, they are damn good football teams. I mean, look what Ganado did this year. They beat Van Vleck in a convincing manner. They beat East Bernard 27-22. They beat Danbury in a shutout fashion before they got smoke checked by Shiner. But if you look at their first game against Refugio, they put up points against Refugio. They put up 26 points against Refugio. So you look at Ganado and you go, they can compete. They can compete with these teams. They just have that mental block that, well, they've had it longer with Shiner than they had with Refugio. So they didn't really have a grasp on what Refugio was like, until they played them in playoffs every year, or if they even played them in playoffs in the last 10 years or so. But Ganado and Three Rivers are so much alike as far as talent, as far as how good they really are compared to the rest of the district, But like I said, you got your flagship programs like Refugio and Shiner. Refugio is all-time 7 in wins in Texas high school football history, And you look at Ganado, they're nowhere near the top 50. You look at Three Rivers, they're nowhere in the top 50, in all-time wins. Refugio is number 7, and I believe Shiner's somewhere in the top 15, if I'm not mistaken. But Ganado, let's talk about their players coming back. So I'm sure, yeah, they got some damn good stats. So they got Burris Guerrero, who's leaving. So you got a quarterback who's going to be behind him named Ullman, who threw 9 for 12, 153 passing yards. He threw 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So they got a pretty good quarterback coming in. He'll be a senior next year, but they are going to miss Burris Guerrero, who threw 164 completions for 250 attempts, threw over 2,114 passing yards, threw 26 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. This is a weird district because we're not used to seeing a lot of quarterbacks throw the ball in the same district, are we? We're used to seeing run stats or maybe two or three teams that throw the ball. So far, all the districts been throwing the ball a lot. But I will say this: Olman's going to be a big factor when Ganado plays next year. But they also have Holt, who's coming back. He was the second place guy behind Burris Guerrero, who had 109 carries, 1,442 rushing yards, and he had 33 rushing touchdowns as a quarterback. 33 rushing touchdowns. So altogether, that kid accumulated 59 touchdowns total, and most of them were rushing touchdowns. So that offense was built around Burris Guerrero. Now he's gone. Now you got Ullman, who's coming in to be the new starting man. You got Holt, who's the starting running back. And also you got Salvatore. So Holt had 96 carries, 642 rushing yards. He had 7 touchdowns. But then Salvatore, he had 84 carries, 418 rushing yards, and he had 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, we could see a deadly running back combination with Ganado here. And then you have a very young receiving core for Ganado. They are losing a couple of seniors like Strauss, who's third in their receiving yardage with 339 receiving yards, and he had 3 touchdowns. But they're getting back 2 young men. One's going to be a sophomore, one's going to be a junior. Hayden, number 14, 40 receptions, 569 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. Hicks, he was a freshman, shared the same exact receptions, 40 receptions, just 18 yards shy behind Hayden with 541 receiving yards, and he had 10 touchdowns. So you got a pretty good balance in the receiving core for Ganado. And then you got Burris, a sophomore, who's coming back to be a junior next season. 18 receptions, 268 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. So Ganado's not hurting. Their biggest loss offensively is going to be their quarterback because he was primarily their offense. But I don't know. I kind of want to see what this Ullman kid's about because he only had 3 incompletions and he had 3 touchdowns with no interceptions. So very interested to see what this Ganado offense could do next season.
Well, they were the 4th place.
Yeah, and they were the 4th place team too. And they are losing quite a bit defensively though. Sack leader Burris Guerrero, he's just a dog, so he's gonna be gone. Almeida, he's gonna be gone with 4 sacks. Teague, he's gonna be gone with 3 sacks. And right behind him is gonna be a senior next year, Holt, who had 3 sacks. Tristan Jr., he's leaving with 2. Webernick with 1. Kovar, who's coming back, going to be a junior next season. He had 1 sack in 4 games. Rodriguez, he's coming back, 1 sack in 11 games. I think he's going to do better next season. But they didn't really get after the ball very often in the passing game, so that hurt them a lot defensively. Ullman and Hayden had 2 interceptions each. Webernick, he's going to be gone. He had 1 interception. Burris, he's coming back with 1 interception. And Salvatore, 1 interception for him. So, offensively, I am comfortable with them. Defensively, they got to plug in some holes. So, Ganado, I think they're going to be in good hands still.
Yeah, they might make the playoffs again next year. But again, when we talk about these teams, right, we're saying that the other 2 top teams, 1 and 2, are just on a different level, and I do agree with that. But again, these teams got to come out. They got both 3 Rivers and Ganado got some players coming back. between these two teams, it was pretty close. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll now go over to the the fifth place team, which were the Kenedy Lions. Didn't make the playoffs in a very tough district. I would
Yeah.
ask you because I saw it when we were talking about this team Kennedy at the season, but um, what was the score between Kennedy and the number 3 and 4 teams? Not Refugio and Shiner, but were they competitive with Ganado and Three Rivers?
No, not at all. Ganado was 42-14. Ganado won that one. And Three Rivers just outclassed them in every fashion, 61-17.
Mm,
So now you're starting to see the wide open spread
right.
of the difference between the top 4 teams and the bottom 3 teams of this district. So it's very tough to see because they had Ganado and Three Rivers pretty early in their district. 2 out of their 3 first games were in district was Ganado, Bloomington, and then Three Rivers. So they had a high scoring affair against Bloomington, 66-50.
Mm, mm,
And they barely beat Skidmore 33-32. So you see where the tier list is starting to go down to the third level, and then you got the second level, and then you got the first level, of course. So I mean, this was just one team that just kept struggling. You could just tell by the games. They barely lost to Carn City. They lost to Bracketville Bracket 42-20. They shut out Ben Bolt 21-0. They beat Somerville 35-13. And then after that they just got sandblasted by the 4 top teams in district. The only 2 good wins were Skidmore-Tynan and Bloomington in district play, but there's a lack of depth for Kenedy. I think. I think there's just a lot of lack of depth for them. But then again, they are losing a couple seniors, but they have a young star in the making. In Pinion, number 21, he was a sophomore. He had 185 carries, 1,501 rushing yards, and 16 touchdowns. And then they got a freshman, number 1, Solis, who had 108 carries, 665 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns. So they're not a bad team. They're just in a very, very difficult district. And offensively, they're the first team that I got to say they haven't they haven't thrown the ball a lot. But they they put the ball on the ground 7 times and lost 6 times.
mm.
But
And
when they did throw the ball, Torres, the senior, 8 for 24, 130 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. 8. So that's not very good for Kenedy. So maybe this new crop that's coming in for Kenedy, maybe they'll be a little bit more competitive. Nobody went over 50 total tackles. Their sack leader, though, is a sophomore. He's going to be a junior next season, but he only played 4 games. So either it was injuries that came into play or grades came into play. But
yeah,
I mean,
and here's the thing, right? So you got, and it's kind of, and you can see it now that we're recapping it, right, and talking about it. Refugio and Shiner are in this level. Then you
Yeah.
got the mid-level, which is Ganado and Three Rivers, which these two teams are pretty even, but they can't compete at the level with Shiner and Refugio. And then you've got the bottom tier, which is Skidmore this past year, 2022, Bloomington and Kenedy, who can't compete with Ganado and Three Rivers. So you're seeing three spots right now. We'll see what 2023 has, but yeah, that's the way it seems like the middle are the bottom three can't compete with the two middle, and the two middle can't compete with the two top. So
Yeah, it's like a food chain. If you really look at it, it's like a food chain. Like the strongest will survive in the bottom tier, and then the top tiers will, or the mid tiers will go after the bottom tiers, and then the top tiers will go after the middle tiers. It's a very weird scenario in this district. So
well,
but you could definitely tell who's the top dogs in this district, and you could tell who are the teams that need a lot of work. So
well, they are in a
and
tough
it's
district for these teams, these three teams, right? In 2022, which was Skidmore, Bloomington, and Kenedy, they're in a tough district. I mean,
yeah,
one great player, one great quarterback isn't going to beat Refugio and Shiner. It's got to be a team to beat those guys. So, again,
yeah,
they're just in a tough district. But unless Kenedy, Skidmore, we're going to break down Skidmore here in just a bit, and Bloomington, you would almost have a safe bet that unless that something changes, right, you're going to see the same four teams. I don't know if it's in the same, 1, 2, 3, 4, but it seems like these four teams are, with what they've got coming back, it seems like there would be the four teams that are going to represent this district. We'll see. It's still early on. We don't know, but it just kind of seems that way, right, with the way you're breaking
yeah.
what they got coming back. So we'll go now to the sixth place team, which was the Skidmore Tynan Bobcats. This is one of the teams that's definitely in our coastal Bend area. Again, not a really good season in 2022. Really struggled, and again, in a tough district. What do you got to say about those Bobcats?
Well, they had one big win. They had a blowout win, and it was their last game against Bloomington, 51-12 at Bloomington. So that's pretty good. But they barely lost to Kenedy. They got shut out by Ganado, Shiner, Refugio, and Three Rivers. So the top teams shut them out. Three Rivers 57-0. Excuse me. Refugio 60-0. Shiner 49-0. And then Ganado 70-0. So and then they opened up against Taft. They lose to Taft 47-13. They beat Ben Bolt, so they're 1-1. So you think they're going to be pretty decent this year. They barely lose to Aransas Pass, which that's kind of hard to do, in my opinion. But they lose to SGA 40-35. This is where it gets ugly. Then they have 3 games in a row where they get shut out by the top 3 teams in this district. Then they barely lose to Kenedy. Then they get shut out by the 4th place team. And then they win big against Bloomington. So I just don't know, man. Like this is one team that has potential to do something, but at the same time they just cannot win games. And their senior that's leaving, man, he only threw over 1,000 yards by 1 yard, so and he really struggled against the pass defense, 8 touchdowns with 10 interceptions. But I do like this Martinez kid coming in. Even though he threw 15 completions for 150 attempts, he does have a plus on his 4 touchdowns, but he did throw 2 interceptions. So he'll be back as a senior. They're going to lose a big star for them. Gabriel, he had 194 carries, almost getting to 1,400 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns for him. So they're going to lose him, and they're going to miss him. So really, I just don't see them touching the lenses of greatness in this district, especially with Refugio and Shiner playing at a high level as they usually do. And then you got Ganado and Three Rivers right there, who are, if they go to a different district, I would say they would be a district champion, you know? That's how far I'd go with those two teams. But Skidmore, they just cannot win games. And if they do win games, it's against teams that, well, they need help. And they are, like I said, they are losing quite a bit offensively and defensively. So, one good thing is their sack leaders as far as underclassmen, Cheek, Hinojosa, and Hinch had 3 sacks this season. They're coming back, and then Looney, he's coming back with 2 sacks. Amaro, who's coming back with 1 sack. You know, so defensively there might be something there in the front line, and then Cheeks coming back with 3 interceptions. So I don't know, Gabriel. I honestly don't know about this team.
This team's going to struggle. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
This district, it just is. The next year too, these other teams, the top 4 teams, that made the playoffs, they're going to be tough next year too. Refugio and Shiner, and we talk about who's coming back, so they're going to be tough again this year. So Skidmore, it just may possibly be another down year for them. We'll see what happens. Anything can happen, right? But it just kind of seems like, they got an uphill battle to climb here, right, against these 4 teams to try to win more ball games and get into the playoffs is what I'm talking about. It's going to be tough for the Skidmore Bobcats. So again, tough district. Unfortunately, after this next upcoming year, 2023, they'll do the realignment again. We'll see where these teams fall, right? They may fall in another district that may benefit them a little bit better than it did last year and this upcoming year. And then we'll talk about our last team here. And there's this team again. They kind of didn't win a game in district. 3-7, I think overall, but didn't win a district game. Bloomington, and you talked about the score. The one team that struggled here, which was Skidmore, and really blew out Bloomington. So that just really tells you where Bloomington is at. What are they gonna do next year? Can they win more games? Can they win a district game next year?
Well, they, like I said, they got they have potential. They went 3-1 non-district, so they're not a bad team. It's either they had a lot of players fail or they had a lot of players hurt. And when you have Refugio and Shiner in the first 2 district games, you're gonna struggle. That's a no-brainer. But when you lose to Kenedy 66-50, that's where you start questioning what's going on here. We're 3-4 now. What's going on? And then they get shut out by Ganado, and then they put 6 points on Three Rivers, but gave up 56 points. And then you're thinking in your head, well, at least we got Skidmore-Tynan at home at senior night. Why not? 51-12 on senior night. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. But yeah, their points for 212. Their points against 429. So they gave up 217, or the teams outscored them 217 points, this entire season. And it's sad to see. It really is. But they are going to lose Bereza, who had almost 1,800 yards passing. He threw for 19 touchdowns, but threw for 17. So that's Dakota Prescott numbers right there. So, yeah. But they might get back Zuniga. I'm not too sure, but he had 661 rushing yards off of 106 carries, 9 total touchdowns. Uh, but yeah, offensively, I'm not too impressed with Bloomington. Defensively, uh, they're losing 2 pretty good seniors, but boy, this is
Don't break your head trying to figure it out. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, listen.
yeah.
I mean, like you talked about.
But here's the problem with Bloomington. They never really pressured the quarterbacks. In this district, you have to pressure the quarterbacks. Otherwise, they're going to pick your defense apart. You know
Well,
how many sacks total they had this season? Probably the lowest we've seen on the gridiron. 4.
yeah, but you know what? They're just the talent, the talent level is not there for Bloomington. It's just
Yeah.
not. It's just not. I mean, you know, sometimes you can just give 100%. They probably do. They just the talent. They're just overmatched. It's just when you go into the games, you're just overmatched. You're overmatched with size, probably, speed. You know, and there's only so much you can do. And when the other
Yeah.
team is just that much better, then you just got to go out there and just give it everything you got and let the chips fall. So when I look at Bloomington, and I've never seen them play before, but I have seen the other teams that they have to play against in district play, and my guess is just they're just outmatched. That there's the talent, they just can't.
Yeah.
Talent that
Physically.
Bloomington has, yeah, over these other teams, especially the top two teams, it's just too much for them, and they just can't match up. And when you can't match up, you're going to get scores like that. So definitely, hopefully Bloomington can do a little bit better next year, if not win, compete a little bit better. But it really looks to me, TJ, and I'm not going to make my predictions now, but I would imagine that when I do make my predictions as the 2023 season comes in a couple of months, I think these 4 teams, is a safe bet to say that these 4 teams are probably going to be making the playoffs again. I don't know in what order, right? But I would think that the teams that made it in this district to the playoffs, the 4 teams are pretty safe to say they're probably going to be there again next year. Now, we'll see, but that's just what I'm saying early on. So
Yeah.
thank you, TJ. That concludes the breakdown, the recap of the 7 teams that on this 2A. It's going to be a great. I mean, next year we're going to be talking a lot about these teams. We probably won't put them all on our list, but even then, we're going to keep a close eye on them and maybe talk about some of the players, because you know, outside of Refugio and Shiner, Ganado and Three Rivers, as you heard here, pretty dang good teams. You know, if they
Yeah.
don't
They
win
could.
the district, they might even win their district, right? If they're in another district, but 4 teams
Yeah.
that are really, really good. We're definitely going to be paying attention to this district. So it's going to be a good one in 2023. Before we go, TJ, though, we always talk about coaches that are coming on, coaches that have been hired, coaches that are leaving one program and going into another program. This past week, we had 2 coaches that were hired. Well, one was a head coach and the other one was an assistant, but they're moving on now to different schools. And we'll go to the first one, to J.R. Castanello. We've had him here on the
Yeah.
ground, Coach Castanello. Will be leaving the Taft Greyhounds, and will be the new athletic director, head football coach of the Alice Coyotes. You know, TJ, before I pass it on to you, man, I've had Coach Castellano. Man, I love this gentleman, head coach. He's just a great guy to talk to. And you know, when he took the TAB program a few years back, the job that he's done there at TAB, it's been nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, he has really, you know, this team has gotten better. He finally got that team over the hump and won a district title, went into the third round of the playoffs. I know if you're a TAB Greyhound, and I love the Greyhounds, it's upsetting, you know, to lose
Yeah.
a
It's
coach like this
devastating for sure.
because he's brought so much. If you're an assistant coach and the coach underneath him, yeah, I mean, it's a big loss for the Greyhounds, obviously, right, for the community because of the job that he's done. But I bet you, and I got to think that all of the fans, as assistant coaches, and the community of TAP are also very happy at the same time, because they know that this is a great opportunity for him. He's going to a bigger school, tougher competition, right? But it's well deserved. Alice, I think, made a
Yeah. Well
mistake
deserved.
in picking Castellano, from what he has done. it's well deserved. And personally, here on the Gridiron myself, I want to congratulate Coach J.R. Castellano for becoming the new athletic director, head coach of the Alice Coyotes. We definitely are going to be. We're going to be talking about him if he was in TAP or Alice. But now this really becomes interesting now because he's taking on a program. He doesn't have Cutter Stewart there. He's leaving one quarterback, right, which he's done a
Yeah.
phenomenal job. But he's going to Alice. Alice is losing that top quarterback in Cutter Stewart. Of course, they've got a lot of talent, but he's going to be facing some Valley teams, I believe. But he's also going to have Cal Allen. So looking at that, and I've looked at it since they've hired Coach Castellano there at Alice. I think he's going to make the playoffs. Just looking at it, I haven't really seen what Alice got back, but he's in a great position over there, and I think he's going to do some great things for Alice as he did for TAP. I'll pass it over to you, TJ. Your thoughts on Alice hiring Coach J.R. Castellano as their new AD, head football coach?
Good old J.R. Castellanos. Well, let me just tell you something. In his 4-year tenure with Taft, he's been to the playoffs in all 4 years. He had a 30-17 record, which is pretty good, and this is a big step for him. I'm sure he did pretty much as Jay Seibert, not wanting to leave Taft, but it's better for him and his family for sure, and it's going to be one of those things where, the Greyhound Nation's going to miss him, but they're very happy for him. It's a big opportunity for him, and I couldn't be more happy for a guy like Coach Castellanos. He is a genuine person, and he's a better person than a coach, but he's a terrific coach, so I look forward to see what these Coyotes are going to be about next season. You're probably going to see more spread with Alice. You never know. He might like the old school fashion of what Alice is, So we'll just have to see, Gabriel. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I am too, and like I said, it's well deserved. And we'll be talking about them. We'll still be inviting them to come on the Gridiron next year, although we'll be talking about the Coyotes, not the TAP Greyhounds, right? But I think it was a great pick. Obviously, when he took on the TAP program, it was a program that was struggling and had been struggling for some time. You see him, he talked about his record 30-17 at TAP, but it was a program that wasn't winning. And he got there. And now that he's leaving after a few years, he's turned that whole program around to a point where, he's got players playing great. And he's got the program turned in the right direction. For the TAP Greyhounds, I hope that whoever their next coach is, can continue the winning tradition that Coach Castellano has left there in TAP. In Alice, it's always a winning tradition, but in Alice, it's a little bit different because those fans expect to win all the time. It's a bigger community than where he was at. And right away, and we've seen, because we've heard, right? If you don't win in Alice, well, they're not shy about letting you know, right? They want to win.
They're rowdy.
It's a little bit different out there, but of course, Alice obviously did their research. They loved what this coach has done, and I think he's a defensive-minded coach. I mean, he was a head coach.
He's defensive-minded. Usually,
defensive-minded coach. Yeah.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Jack Del Rio when he coached the Jacksonville Jaguars with David Garrard and Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew. It just has a lot of similarity. But I want to add some other news that I want to add on there. Specifically, an Ingleside coach is leaving to meet up with Coach Hunter Hamrick. Marcus Chalk. He's one of the assistants over in Ingleside. Now is leaving to go to Rockdale to be the strength and conditioning coach, recruiting and special teams coordinator. So congratulations to Marcus Chalk and reuniting with Hunter Hamrick after their successful tenure with each other. I mean, this is a big win for Rockdale. Hamrick already making moves over there up north in Rockdale. So I'm excited to see what Rockdale's going to be about next season. We might cover Rockdale a little bit more, because shoot,
It's the
Mustang
gridiron.
fans are curious.
It's the Gridiron 64. We talk football. It takes us where it takes us, right? But definitely, because we've had Coach Hamrick on before, so we know of him and what he's done. So yeah, most definitely, we'll be talking about Coach Hamrick up north next year. We'll keep an eye on what he's doing, and definitely, it's a win for them, right? What these
Yeah.
coaches have done here for Ingleside. We do have news also. West Oso TJ has also
Ooh,
hired
yeah. Let's talk about this one.
a coach. Go ahead and let us know. Do you know who the coach is?
I do know him.
Go ahead.
I don't know him personally, but I'm sure he'll like this nickname. Kenneth Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
That's what I thought when I read his name.
Yeah. It's not really The Rock, folks, so grow up, okay? But no, Kenneth Johnson, he's a former Veterans Memorial offensive coordinator. But this guy has a hell of a resume. He has been a educator for 20 years. He was the Veterans Memorial assistant or associate head football coach for Veterans Memorial. He not only took that, but he was also a part-time assistant principal at Veterans Memorial and also an assistant softball coach.
Mm.
So he was double dipping a little bit, so this guy will bring a lot of discipline to this West Oso program. I think West Oso loves him already. So this is going to be good for the Bears. I mean, they want to get back over the 500 column, So congratulations to Kenneth Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I am excited to have him on the gridiron, and I'm sure he'll enjoy us calling him that from now on. So,
TJ, and yeah, and I'll tell you why I love this move. This is a good district, right? We've already broken and recapped this district down, right? You got Sinton, Ingleside, you've got Orange Grove, which I think is going to be better, and now West Oso. They lost Huff, right? But now you're bringing in a coach who helped, and we've seen what Veterans Memorial did in 2022, right? And he was a huge part of that. So the one thing about West Oso, and this is why I think it's a great hire for West Oso, they have athletes in West Oso every year. They're nothing short of athletes over there. They've got great athletes every year in West. They produce athletes out there. Now you're bringing in a coach, an offensive-minded coach, obviously, right? Who has had a lot of success here recently against a very good team. I think he's going to come in, and right away, I think you're going to start seeing some wins for West Oso. I don't think it's going to take.
I believe so.
And then he's going to be going in and competing. Well, there's 1 year left, right? And then we do the realignment, so we don't know if these teams will stay together. But if they do, all of a sudden now you've got Troutman and Sinton, a really good Sinton team. Ingleside that has been doing really good, and I think that the path for Ingleside is going to continue to go up with this new coach. They've got athletes over there, and Orange Grove we talked about, and how good they've been doing. And now West Oso gets in the mix. They were in the mix, but now with this coach, I think they're really going to start winning some ball. I think it's a really good hire for West Oso.
You can't forget about Robstown either.
I'm forgetting about Robstown, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, Robstown's going to be tough next year as well, I think.
Now that's where you and I disagree, but yes, I understand your point.
Yeah. So there's gonna be a lot of good competition in this district next season. I'm really excited for it. But man, West Oso getting Kenneth Dwayne The Rock Johnson. That's a very incredible name. That, and
I think it's a good hire for West Oso. I really do. I think
fantastic.
great pick.
Fantastic hire.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see where West Oso's trajectory is going to go from here.
Well, it's going to go up. That's what I
Oh,
think. I think it's going to go up,
yeah,
and I
I
don't
think
think
so
it's going to
too.
take very long with this team. I really don't think it's going to take long. So definitely a great pick. We have had a lot of coaches move this year, a lot more than we did the prior year, right? A lot of coaches, assistant coaches moving, and new coaches. Going to be some new faces that we'll be talking about next year, taking on our programs here in the coastal Bend area. But that's a good thing. Coaches come and coaches go. Coaches move. Obviously, coaches. What a lot of coaches moving well deserved, and we wish all of the coaches that have come in to the coastal Bend area a lot of luck in 2023, and those that are leaving out there and moving up to a different school up north or wherever they're going that were here last year with us. We definitely want to wish them a lot of success,
Yeah.
and we'll definitely here on the Gridiron continue to keep everybody updated as much information as we can get on how they're doing and their programs are doing up north. So it's going to be great. It's going to be a great 2023, I think, TJ, football season here on the Gridiron 64. So that'll conclude our podcast. Thank you very much, TJ, for coming on every week, man, and joining us. I mean, I'm trying to get this thing to grow. We're growing in numbers
Yeah.
on the Gridiron 64. We got coaches that kind of look at what we're doing. And now it's about pumping up our players here in the coastal Bend area and exposing them, giving them some exposure in what they're doing and showing the rest of the state of Texas and possibly even outside the state of Texas, the type of athletes and the great athletes that we have here in the coastal Bend area, in South Texas, in Texas, period, right? Because eventually we're going to be branching out. Again, don't forget, we do have 10 teams that are going to be added to our list for 2023. We have 37. We're going to add 47. TJ has already sent me his list. Tony has also sent me his list. So we're going to sit down April 1st or sometime after April 1st when we come on our podcast. I will be posting, actually scheduled for April 1st. We're going to let you guys know the 10 teams that are going to be added to the 37 teams that I already have. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then we'll start working out how we're going to do this. We don't know exactly how we're going to do the podcast, if we're going to break it down to 2 podcasts per week or if it's going to be one. I'm still trying to break that down, but there will be 10 other teams. So I'm excited about that team because I've seen your list and I've seen Tony's list, and there are some really good teams that I myself would love to talk about in 2023. So definitely be looking out, you Gridiron 64 followers. 10 other teams added will be added to the 37 Coastal Bend teams. So we'll have a total of 47 in 2023, man. That's really, really great. Hopefully, every year, TJ will continue to grow and have
Yeah.
more teams. So definitely more work for us, but exciting to talk about these teams. April 1st, we'll let you know the 10 teams that will be added to our 37 teams already on our list. So I'm excited about that. TJ, thank you very much, man. It's been great having you on. I'll give you the final word here on the GI 64 podcast before we call it a night. Anything you want to add, sir?
Well, I'm going to leave off with this. Yeah, I am super excited about this district this upcoming season. I'm really excited to see what goes on from here on out. These coaching changes have been incredible. This is probably the most activity we've seen in quite some time. But yeah, I'm really excited, and that's all I got to say about that. So thank you for having me on, Gabriel, and thank you, Gridiron 64 peeps, for having me on this show.
It's been great, and we're going to continue to have it grow. We're working very hard. I'm working very hard. I know you're working very hard coming on here when you're tired and working, but you're still coming out here. We have big plans for the Gridiron 64. And like I say, we're growing in numbers, and that's great to see people coming in. And so we'll take a little break here. You won't hear from us here for about a few weeks, but then hopefully I'm working on trying to get some players who are going to be playing at the next level. I'll get with TJ, see if we can get maybe a couple of them to come out and join us for a little interview.
Yeah,
It's what the next thing. So we'll probably take about a 2-week, 3-week break, give some time to call some of the players, see if they want to come on. I know they're probably working it's track season, so a lot of these football players are running track. So I'm not sure, how much time they'll have.
And basketball. I mean, there's basketball and baseball too.
Right.
So
So we don't
taking it.
know. Yeah, we don't know if they'll have the time to come in, but we'll still ask. We'll still send an invite. But we'll be out for a couple of weeks. But just keep tuning into our social media pages, and we'll let you know what's going on. But we'll definitely be gearing up for the 7-on-7 also. That'll be coming up here in a couple of months, and then of course the 2023
Yep.
season. So we'll definitely be in tune for that. So you can watch out for that. But if we can get some interviews with some of our athletes that are going to be playing at the next level, football at the next level here in the Coastal Bend area, if we can get them to come on and do a little interview with us, we'll let you know on our social media pages, our Gridiron 64 Facebook and Twitter page, and then bring them on. If not, if we're unable to do that, we'll definitely start gearing up, and you'll see us back here when 7-on-7 starts. TJ, thank you very much, man. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your night, man. I will do the same, and I'll stay in touch with you, and we'll see when is the next time that we'll jump on back on the Gridiron 64 podcast. Until then, Gabriel Trevino, TJ Riddle, McGriddle, Riddell, tuning out.
All right. Goodbye. Mwah! And good night. Bang!